Have you started making your own comic, but it's not nearly as interesting as the pros? Let's talk about your use of camera angles and see if we can make your work more dynamic. One of the basic things that we need to understand about comic books is that it's really a visual medium. And in this medium, it's composed of different panels or shots, just like you'd see in a movie. And just like in a movie, these shots work in similar ways. And this can convey information, make it more dynamic, all without the use of words. The first shot is the establishing shot. You often see this at an opening page or panel of a book. It'll set the tone and the atmosphere of what's to come in the location by cluing the audience in to where this is taking place, the time period or time of day. These are often long shots, meaning the camera is far away from what we're actually looking at. So in this first image, we have Cyberfrog from Ethan Van Sciver. Now in his story, there's an alien bee invasion that's taking over the Earth. So we can see that there is a city, but there's all sorts of weird honeycomb-like structures around it. So this will let the audience know that, hey, something is wrong in this city. This next establishing shot is from the immortal X-Men 242 by Marc Silversteri and Chris Claremont. So in this issue, the X-Men are in New York. Now you can't really tell that they're in New York, but it's definitely in some city. It sets up, you have who were the X-Men at the time and another superhero team, X-Factor. It's got all the members, it clearly labels where they are, and you can see on the left of the screen, they're looking over to the right and they're not looking very happy. Also, you can see this guy here, Cyclops, he's looking here at Madeline Pryor, who's his wife, and his girlfriend, Jean Grey, who's being kissed by Wolverine. So this sets up, where are we? What's going on? What's the conflict? And a great story proceeds from there. This is another establishing shot from later in the issue. So the Empire State Building has been turned into a demon tower, and we can now see where the characters are in relevance to it. The characters are down at the bottom, and we can see how far up they're going to have to go. The next kind of shot is a full shot. So like its name, a full shot includes the entire body of the character from head to toe. These kind of shots are best used for movements and gesture because the character is far enough of the way from the camera. It's difficult to illustrate their state of mind. Most human emotion is read on the face, and with small faces, it's tough to get that kind of information. So again, this is X-Men 242. We have two panels of full shots. So at the top, Archangel is tackling Wolverine, and on the bottom we can see Wolverine is dodging out of the way of razor blade wings. So both of these have a lot of movement, a lot of action, but we can't really see their faces other than some, I guess you call them shock lines near Wolverine's head. You don't get a whole lot of emotion, but it's where things happen. The medium shot is a kind of shot that is usually from between the knees and the waist up to the top of the head. And doesn't have much room to spare at the top of the frame. This allows the viewer to see the environment and the characters and their gestures and movements while being close enough that we can start to see some emotions on the character face. The medium shot is the most used shot, and therefore it's kind of a standard in movies, TVs, and comics. If you like sitcoms, this is the shot for you. They often have two characters in the frame together in a two-shot, which we'll talk about later as the characters talk to each other. In movies, we see more dynamic camera placement, adding to drama and excitement. Since there are relatively limited places to put cameras, sitcoms look flat and they're relatively boring to watch. This is also a problem with a lot of modern comics. They're flat and they're stale looking. If you have fighting, chase, or sneaking around scenes, it's going to bore the audience to tears if it's all medium shots. Even a simple conversation can be made more exciting and convey more information than just what people are saying if the shot angles are changed up. Here we have an example from Ethan Van Sciver's Cyberfrog again, introducing the character of Heather Swain. We see how she's dressed. We can see that there's some guy who's sort of after her or following her in the background. See maybe a slightly annoyed look on her face. They're at this size. It's large enough that we could see facial expressions, other facial expressions, had the artist wanted to put more in. The close-up. Yes, Mr. DeMille, the close-up. This is generally a shot where the head and the face take up the majority of the frame. It puts the character's facial emotions on full display and become the focus. This allows an audience to build a personal connection without being distracted by what's going on in the background. Close-ups are often used as reaction shots. So this is to say, character 1 will say something important or shocking, and then we'll have a shot that's a close-up of character 2's face, so we can see how they feel. In this example, we have the character of Magic from the New Mutants. This is by Art Adams in the Asgardian series. I believe it was New Mutants Special #1. And in this, previously in the story, she had been captured by the Enchantress. Clearly she's beaten up as she's held prisoner, but if we look at her face, she almost looks kind of happy. We can see in the dialogue balloon about bloody time. So she's sort of indignant, defiant, a little bit happy that her teammate has found her. Here we have another page from X-Men 242, and here we have 3 close-ups. So we have a shot of Dazzler. She looks angry, not having it. Cut to another shot of Longshot, where he's got a smirk on his face. He's got a power to make women love him, so he's, I guess, using his mutant power to kind of roofie Dazzler. And then we go back to Dazzler, where you can see the emotion on her face. She seems to be happy, almost enjoying it now. Extreme close-ups are so close that you focus the audience on one specific detail. So this is often used as an eye or a hand, or it could be some object that would normally go unnoticed. The rule of thumb is the closer you get to a subject, the more emotion, the more intimate it is. These kind of shots increase tension and drama. So here we have a page of pencils from an upcoming comic called Doom Kicker, which is penciled by Elliot Fernandez, and I think the story is by Elliot and Doug TenNapel. If we look at this shot, this is a beautiful shot because it's a frame within a frame. So the guy driving in his car, we are looking at the mirror and we see a close-up of his eye. This is actually kind of a double shot because we'll get into later a point of view shot. Point of view, we're seeing through this character's eyes and he's looking at his eye there. In this next example, we have Iron Skies, currently funding on Indiegogo if anybody wants it. Great looking art, and we have this close-up of a man looking through some kind of monocular telescope device here. And I'll leave this open. We may talk about this shot down here with the lady naked. From X-Men, this is an earlier comic, I believe 234. So Wolverine transforms into a brood, and we have a preacher, and he's shocked. So we have this extreme close-up of his eye and a look of fear on his face. We have another extreme close-up from X-Men 242. We have this demon who is shocked because the X-Men have found a way to defeat him. The Upshot, or sometimes called the worm's eye view, this is where the camera is below the eye level of the subject. So the camera is low and it's shooting up. It often gives the impression that the subject is powerful, heroic, or maybe dangerous. Even in the real world, we know that someone taller and larger than us would be dangerous in a fight. A good example is The Rock. So the guy is 6'5", he's not only pure muscle, but the fact that he towers over you would give a heroic impression. And if you had to fight the guys, man, you would be in some trouble. This first image we have is from Flying Fortress. I'm not sure who did this art. The comic is by Eric Weathers. This, I think, is not actually part of the comic, but a promotional image. But as we can see, the camera is placed on the floor. We're looking up at a gunner in a B-17 bomber during World War II. He looks very heroic, trying to shoot at the enemy. This next shot is again from the New Mutants special. We have the character Karma, and she sees someone being chased by this giant worm thing. So the camera is low, below her eye line, and we're looking up at this worm. And the same thing in this bottom frame, in the bottom panel. So this gives that worm the impression of being larger. It's a very serious threat. And this last shot, again, X-Men 242, the last page where this woman becomes the Goblin Queen. It's a shot coming up. She's got Jean Grey captive. She looks dangerous, formidable. Even though she's not particularly muscular, she's a slim woman, but just the posing in this picture gives her the air of seriousness and danger. A downshot is the opposite of an upshot. It's where the camera is above the eye level. This tends to make characters look weak, vulnerable, small. Here we have another shot from the New Mutants special. Here we have the character of Magic before she was captured. She's on the floor. She's also in a bathing suit, which doesn't help, but this camera angle makes her look small and vulnerable, like something may happen to her, which, as we read the rest of the page, something does. We have another shot from X-Men 242. The camera is almost directly on top of Colossus as he scales this building. This gives us a sense of just how high he's got to climb up to get to the top. A two-shot presents two characters together within the same frame. It's a natural means of introducing both people, and it can be used to shed light on the relationship to one another. Different variations of the shots can be applied to deliver different messages about the characters. For example, when characters are positioned next to each other, it may give the impression that they have equal prominence in the scene. So this is an example from Downcast by the artist. His name is Ignacio something or another. People usually call him Nacho. So we have these two characters, brother and sister. They are washing the windows. Now this hasn't come out yet, so I couldn't tell you if I'm right, but just by the way that they're laid out, you can see the sister is a little bit higher than her brother in the frame. This would lead me to think that she's kind of going to be the more important sibling, or somehow the story will be a little bit more about her than her brother. Also, we have this shot of Jawbreakers. Now I grabbed this. This is drawn by John Malin, and in this shot we can see all the characters together in a van. Now I grabbed this off of the Indiegogo, and this was drawn and inked and put up there before it was lettered. So just in relationship to the two characters, we see this guy on the right side is higher than this guy on the left. Now it turns out the guy on the right, is the guy in charge of the unit. The guy on the left is sort of field commander, I guess we'd say, but he's one of the troops. So even without dialogue, we can see the relationship between them. In a point of view shot, the camera is placed at an angle so that we can see what the character is looking at. This type of shot allows the viewer to take on the perspective of the character and begin to understand their state of mind on a more personal level, on a more visceral level. So here we have a page from John Malin's Graveyard Shift. And as we look at these three panels in connection, so we have this higher panel is an extreme close-up of the character's eyes with some blood on his face, and we're looking through his eyes as he views his own hand, almost as if he's shocked or disappointed when we see the third frame. So I hope this has helped you in trying to determine what kind of shots to use when you're making your own books, and maybe you can appreciate the works of the professionals a little bit better. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, you want to see more content, please click subscribe. I would love to hear any feedback in the comments. See you again soon.